In a world where emotions manifested as visible storms around individuals, Elara was an anomaly. A serene blue aura always enveloped her, a stark contrast to the turbulent tempests that often raged around others. She worked as a storm soother in the city of Ethel, a profession dedicated to calming the emotional storms of the citizens using advanced neural technology. One fateful day, a new patient arrived, Kale. Kale was a brilliant scientist known for his groundbreaking work in AI, but he was also infamous for the perpetual hurricane that swirled around him. His emotional storms were so intense that they disrupted the city's energy grid, causing widespread blackouts. Elara was assigned to help Kale regulate his emotions, but she quickly realized that his storms were unlike anything she had ever encountered. They weren't just random outbursts of anger or sadness. They were complex, multi-layered, and seemed to have a life of their own. As she delved deeper into his psyche, using the neural link, she discovered that Kale's storms were fueled by a deep-seated sense of guilt and loss. Years ago, he had lost his family in an accident that he believed he could have prevented. The AI he was developing was his attempt to create a world where such tragedies would be a thing of the past. Elara found herself drawn to Kale, not despite his storms, but because of them. She saw the pain and the vulnerability beneath the tempest, and she longed to soothe his troubled soul. She began spending extra hours with him, listening to his stories, his fears, and his dreams. She shared her own experiences, her own struggles, and her own hopes for a better future. As they grew closer, Elara realized that she was falling in love with Kale. But Kale was resistant to her affection. He was so consumed by his guilt and his work that he couldn't believe that anyone could truly care for him. He pushed her away, telling her that he was too damaged, too dangerous to be loved. His storms intensified, threatening to engulf them both. Elara refused to give up on him. She knew that Kale was worth fighting for, even if he couldn't see it himself. She devised a new approach to his therapy, using a combination of neural technology and emotional resonance. She would enter his storms with him, not as a therapist, but as a companion, a fellow traveler. She would show him that he wasn't alone in his pain, that she would weather the storm with him, no matter how fierce it became. The first time she entered his storm, she was almost overwhelmed by the intensity of it. The winds howled, the lightning flashed, and the rain poured down in torrents. She could feel Kale's pain, his fear, his despair. But she held on, focusing on her love for him, her belief in his capacity for healing. Slowly, gradually, she began to calm the storm. She whispered words of comfort, of hope, of love. She reminded him of the good he had done, of the lives he had touched, of the potential he had to create a better world. As she worked with Kale, Elara discovered that his AI project, named Haven, was more advanced than she had initially thought. Haven wasn't just designed to predict and prevent accidents, it was also capable of processing and understanding human emotions. Kale had hoped that Haven could learn to soothe his storms, but he had never been able to fully integrate the AI with his neural system. He was afraid of losing control, of becoming dependent on a machine. Elara realized that Haven could be the key to Kale's healing. She proposed a new approach. Instead of trying to suppress his emotions, they would work with Haven to understand and manage them. They would use the AI to identify the root causes of his storms, to develop strategies for coping with his pain, and to create a safe space for him to express his emotions. Kale was hesitant at first, but Elara's unwavering support and her genuine care for him eventually won him over. Together, they began to work with Haven, exploring the depths of Kale's psyche. They uncovered repressed memories, unresolved traumas, and hidden desires. They learned to identify the triggers that set off his storms and developed techniques for defusing them before they escalated. As Kale began to heal, his storms gradually subsided. The hurricane that had once raged around him began to dissipate, replaced by a gentle breeze. He started to open up to Elara, sharing his vulnerabilities, his fears, and his dreams. He admitted that he had been afraid of love, afraid of being hurt again. But he also acknowledged that Elara had shown him that love was possible, even for someone as damaged as him. One day, as they were working with Haven, Kale experienced a particularly intense wave of emotion. His storm flared up, threatening to overwhelm him. Alara rushed to his side, ready to enter the storm with him. But this time, Kale stopped her. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and focused on the techniques they had developed with Haven. He acknowledged his pain, his fear, and his guilt. But he also reminded himself of his love for Alara, his commitment to healing, and his hope for the future. To Alara's amazement, the storm began to subside on its own. Kale had learned to manage his emotions, to weather the storm without her help. He opened his eyes, and a serene smile spread across his face. He reached out and took Alara's hand, his touch sending a jolt of electricity through her body. "I did it," he said, his voice filled with wonder. "I finally did it." In that moment, Alara knew that Kale had truly healed. He had faced his demons, conquered his fears, and emerged stronger and more resilient than ever before. And she had been there for him every step of the way, loving him even when he couldn't feel her storm. As time went on, Kale and Alara continued to work together, using Haven to help others who struggled with emotional storms. They became renowned throughout Ethel for their groundbreaking work in emotional therapy. Their love for each other deepened with each passing day. They found solace in each other's arms, sharing their joys, their sorrows, and their dreams. They built a life together, filled with love, laughter, and purpose. And even though Kale's storms were now a thing of the past, Alara never forgot the lessons she had learned from him. She knew that love was not about fixing someone, but about accepting them, supporting them, and loving them unconditionally, even when they couldn't feel your storm. In a small town called Nebula Heights, where technology met magic, there lived a girl named Lila. Lila was an ordinary girl with bright brown eyes and curly black hair, but she was never really ordinary. In the heart of Nebula Heights, where robots and humans coexisted, she had a secret. She could control the weather. As she walked to school each morning, the skies often reflected her mood. If she was happy, the sun shone brightly. If she felt down, clouds rolled in and raindrops followed. Lila loved her power, but she felt alone. People in the town didn't understand her gift, and they often kept their distance. They feared what they did not understand. In her school, Lila had one true friend. Max was tall and lanky, with glasses that always slipped down his nose. He was a tech genius. He built gadgets that could do extraordinary things, like making everyday tasks easier. While Lila learned to embrace her powers, Max learned to synthesize technology with nature. Together, they made a strange but perfect team. In a small town called Nebula Heights, where technology met magic, there lived a girl named Lila. Lila was an ordinary girl with bright brown eyes and curly black hair, but she was never really ordinary. In the heart of Nebula Heights, where robots and humans coexisted, she had a secret. She could control the weather. As she walked to school each morning, the skies often reflected her mood. If she was happy, the sun shone brightly. If she felt down, clouds rolled in and raindrops followed. Lila loved her power, but she felt alone. People in the town didn't understand her gift, and they often kept their distance. They feared what they did not understand. In her school, Lila had one true friend. Max was tall and lanky, with glasses that always slipped down his nose. He was a tech genius. He built gadgets that could do extraordinary things, like making everyday tasks easier. While Lila learned to embrace her powers, Max learned to synthesize technology with nature. Together, they made a strange but perfect team. One day, as they sat on a swing set in the park, Lila told Max about her fears. What if I can never connect with anyone because of what I can do? I just want someone to understand me. Max looked at her, his eyes serious. You just need to find the right person. Someone who can feel your storm, even when the skies are clear. Lila smiled, appreciating his words but still unsure. She longed for connection, but it felt too far away. That night, a strange glowing light appeared in the sky above Nebula Heights. It was a spaceship, shimmering with colors that danced against the dark backdrop of stars. The next day, the news swept through the town. People were excited and frightened. A spaceship had landed in the field just outside town. Curious, Lila and Max decided to investigate. As they approached the ship, a door opened, and out stepped an alien named Zarn. Zarn had skin like silver and eyes that sparkled like diamonds. He spoke in a soft voice. I come in peace. I am searching for someone who can help my planet. We're losing our weather. Our storms are gone, and without them, we cannot survive. Lila's heart raced. I can help, she said, stepping forward. I can control the weather. Zarn looked at her with hope. Will you come with me to my planet, Zephyr? We need someone with your abilities to bring back the storms. Max grabbed Lila's arm. Are you sure about this? What about home? Lila paused, looking back at their town. She thought about her loneliness and the pressure of her powers. I have to try, she said. I want to feel what it's like to make a real difference. Under the glowing lights of the spaceship, Lila took a deep breath and stepped inside with Zarn. The spaceship hummed to life, and in no time, they were soaring through the stars toward Zephyr. When they landed, Lila was amazed. The sky was a bright shade of purple, and the ground was covered with shimmering glass-like trees. Yet, despite the beauty, Lila could sense the sadness in the air. The clouds were thin, and the sun scorched the ground. This planet was desperate for rain. Zarn led her to a large chamber filled with people of his kind. They looked at her with hope. Lila felt a wave of responsibility wash over her. I will help you. I can call the storms, she promised. But Lila soon discovered that calling storms was not as easy as she thought. In the beginning, she only managed to create small rains that hardly touched the ground. The people of Zephyr watched, their faces filled with disappointment. Lila felt the weight of their expectations pressing down on her shoulders. Days turned into weeks, and Lila struggled. The hope she once felt began to fade. One evening, sitting alone by the glass trees, she could feel her powers weakening. It was as if anxiety had wrapped around her heart like a storm cloud. Just when she thought she could not do it anymore, she heard a familiar voice. Lila, don't lose faith, Max said, appearing beside her. Somehow he had followed her to Zephyr. You have this power inside you. You just need to remember who you are. Lila looked at him, and a spark ignited in her heart. She remembered the laughter they shared, the adventures they had, and the support they offered each other. She closed her eyes and thought of everything that connected her to home. With Max by her side, Lila felt her power surge. She raised her arms to the sky, calling on the deep emotional storm inside her. Thunder rumbled, and dark clouds gathered, swirling and twisting in reply to her call. The air became electric, and the people of Zephyr gasped with amazement. Finally, after a long effort, she released her energy, and a massive storm broke free. The rains poured from the skies, soaking the ground and filling the air with the smell of wet soil. Lila stood there, feeling the cool drops on her skin and the cheers of the people around her. "This is just the beginning," she shouted with joy. The storm raged on, and with it, both the people and the planet began to heal. The glass trees shined bright once more, and the colors in the sky danced with life. Lila no longer felt alone. She had found her purpose. She had understood her power and shared it with those who needed it most. In that moment, Lila realized that love could be felt even when the storm was raging. Max smiled at her, knowing she had found her place in the universe. "You did it, Lila. You let them feel your storm." From then on, Lila decided to visit Zephyr regularly. The connection between her and the people grew strong. She found friends there, and she was never lonely again. Every time she returned home, she felt lighter, knowing she had made a difference in a place that needed her storm. And in those moments, she understood that love could bridge even the darkest skies.